Hello and welcome back to True Intent. Thanks for joining us again today, and please remember to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends and family. Subscribe to that channel, hit that notification button so that you'll know every time that we release a new discussion, new conversation here on True Intent. Well, today we're continuing our discussion around becoming emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically whole, addressing the four parts of our life that we saw in Mark chapter 12 when Jesus answered the question about the commandments, and he said we got to love God, and he listed out with all four parts of our life. And so if you listen to our first discussion about this, you may be asking yourself, well, is this me? Is this the help that I need? Is this the category that I fall into? And so I want to talk a little bit about that today, very quickly talk about some things that we need to look at in our life and how do we know if we are emotionally unhealthy. And before I get to that, I just want to kind of address a little bit on the spiritual health and emotional wholeness again. So, those that are spiritually healthy or spiritually whole in our life. What does that mean, Chris? What does that look like? Well, if you're spiritually whole, that means that you're surrendering to God's love in our life, that you're born again of water and spirit, as Jesus told Nicodemus in John chapter 3, that you're positioning yourself in life to hear from God and follow after His leading, that you're established a prayer life and time in His Word and reading the Bible. To be spiritually whole also means that you're growing and seeing the fruit of the Spirit exhibited in your life, that you're operating in the gifts of the Spirit in your life, and that you're faithful to God in your time and your talent and your treasure. Those are things that people that are spiritually whole, that are spiritually mature, that are growing up in God, those are things, the characteristics that they see in their life. And a lot of people would think, well, as a Christian, if I'm covering those 4, 5, 6 things in my life, then everything is good. But we need to make sure we also assess our emotional health and make sure that we are whole emotionally as well. You say, well, Chris, what exactly do you mean there? Well, people that are emotionally whole means that they are identifying and understanding your own feelings, that you're avoiding self-destructive patterns in your life, that you understand how your past impacts and shapes your present and your future. Emotionally whole people have respectful and loving relationships with other people, and they're able to respect and love other people without trying to change them. Emotionally whole people are able to ask for what they need and what they want in a clear and respectful manner. They're able to assess their strengths and their weaknesses, their limits and their restrictions, and they're able to willingly address them and share them with other people. Emotionally whole people know how to resolve conflict in a mature manner without damaging a relationship. And finally, emotionally whole people understand loss and how to properly grieve and process through loss, whether that's a loss of a person, a loss of a job, a loss of a relationship. We need to understand how to be able to work through loss in our life. It's sad, but as a pastor, what I have seen is that many pastors, many preachers, many churches never address emotional health. They want to force people and try to, again, put that spiritual bandage over the emotional wound, and that is something that is detrimental and is dangerous to us as born-again believers. Too many times, items that are in the emotional column in our life can cause problems for the individual, for a marriage, for relationships, for families, and even for entire churches if they're not properly addressed. All right, Chris, so I'm listening to what you're saying, so answer the questions for me. How do I know if I'm emotionally unhealthy? How do I know if I need to work on that emotional part of my life? Well, some symptoms of people who are emotionally unhealthy. And this bleeds over into your spirituality and your spiritual life. First thing is that they kind of use God to run from God. And what do you mean by that? Maybe you engage in excessive Christian behavior. a lot of Christian books, Christian songs, Christian videos, and we use those as an escape point rather than dealing with our pain, dealing with problems in our life and our relationships. We simply crank up the Christian music a little bit louder and we escape the pain of the emotional hurt and wound. Another symptom is that you ignore anger, sadness, and fear. You see, to feel is human. And if we look at the scripture, if we have time, we would go through it. We don't today, but God has emotions. And we don't need to try to bury our emotions. We need to address them. Another symptom of someone who is emotionally unhealthy is we die to the wrong things. We're told as Christians to bear our cross and to die to sin, but not die to everything else in life, not die out to things that we enjoy, not die out to fun and laughter and joy and vacation and hobbies and things that we enjoy. Sometimes people that are emotionally unhealthy, they deny the impact of the past on their present. We talked about that last time. Other times, people that are emotionally unhealthy will try to divide their life into compartments. And they have a self and a persona for work, and one for church, and one for family. And those are vastly different, and you wouldn't recognize those people in those different settings. Why, yes, I understand that we act one way at work, and there's another role we put on when we come home or go to church, but there ought to be common threads, common characteristics and values carried across all of those. A lot of times, sixth thing we have to be careful for is that we're not doing for God instead of being with God. Sometimes we can get caught up in the work of being a Christian, the work of ministry, the work around the church, and neglect spending time with God. One of the things that emotionally immature people or emotionally wounded people may do is spiritualize away conflict. You see, unity and emotional or relational health is not achieved by sweeping your feelings under a rug or lying about how you really feel. It's about kindly, gently, and honestly discussing your differences in your feelings and working through those with people around you. We don't want to cover up our brokenness, our weakness, and our failures. We want to make sure we address those, expose those. We want to make sure that we have limits in our life. People that are emotionally unhealthy try to have no limits and do everything and not understand that we all have limits. And then lastly, the 10th thing that we have to use that as an assessment is ask ourselves, are we judging other people's spiritual life? And if we do that habitually and we do that repeatedly, we compare ourselves and judge where other people are in their walk with God, then we know we have some emotional problems that we need to address. In Matthew chapter 11, beginning in verse 28, then Jesus said, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me and let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you'll find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." See, there are born-again believers right here in the True Intent family who have such emotional damage, such mental anguish, such past hurts and wounds, and it's causing great pain for you today. And when you hear this kind of message that the yoke of Jesus Christ is easy and his burden is light, you think to yourself, that's not for me, Chris. That doesn't apply to my life. When you hear scriptures that God came to give life and life more abundantly, it doesn't register with you because you haven't properly addressed your emotional health. Maybe you've overreacted to other people's wants or needs, or overcommitted yourself, or stressed out about pleasing other people, maybe even your family, and maybe even your spiritual mentors or your pastor more so than God. And unfortunately, a lot of times that leads us to becoming bitter, angry, maybe even depressed, because here's come another church service, another week, another day, another interaction with people, at church and people that should be encouraging and lift us up. But that place of refuge has now become a place of frustration, chaos, stress. If that's the case for you today, I want to urge you to take a step back, to assess, to pray, maybe to pick up a book. Write a note in the comments if you're willing and able, and say, Chris, this is some stuff I struggle with. I can recommend some books for you. I'll reach out to you. You see, when we're emotionally damaged, we see problematic relationships at home and at work. We see those at church. We see them everywhere we go. We have problems in every relationship in our life. If that's you today, I want to urge you and encourage you to get some help, seek out, maybe get some counseling, reach out. Maybe we can help one another. We can walk through this and see some emotional healing as a family right here, True in 10. Put some comments there, and if you're listening on YouTube or Facebook, and share maybe some of your experiences, points in your life where you realize that maybe you've got some emotional damage you need to work through. Maybe how you've overcome some of that. What did you do to grow through some of those things? Maybe you can help some of your other True in 10 family. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope this has been a help and a blessing. If it has, please like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, continue to expect greater things. God bless.